Welcome to the Code A Round 1, Day 3-1. Here are our matches as you can see them on screen, starting up with Salmosa versus Sirius. How are you feeling today, Caldor?
That was just you forgetting or remembering, oh, wait a second, I didn't introduce him. I have to get him back into the picture.
Yeah, I was about to go down the whole list, man. Then I was like, wait a second. It may be dark where we're sitting right now, but I know that you're beside me. I know that you're here.
Yeah, you can't see me, I can't see you. It's really dark here in the studio right now. Someone definitely forgot to turn on the lights, but yeah, as Wolf already mentioned here, you have our player list for today, and I guess probably our second match might be one of the most interesting ones in the first round. We have Keen up against Inori. That should be pretty good. Yu-Gi-Oh! Later on has to deal with Bogus, who is pretty strong apparently. We just spoke to the TSL coach, and here, remember the series between Bogus and Pold, which Pold barely was able to win, and Pold was apparently really impressed.
Bogus is looking really good in StarCraft 2 already. A lot of people have been talking about him, so I'm looking forward to seeing how he's going to do. Now, of course, our final match will have Oz, an old-time veteran, going up against Trap, the seeded STX player, so that'll be interesting to see who's going to come out ahead there.
Yeah, exactly, especially with Oz not doing too well in the GSTL and kind of struggling in general. It's going to be interesting to see if he will be able to overcome Trap. One of the few Casper players who actually got a seed. He didn't get a Code S seed, but at least was seeded right into the first round of Code A. So we're going to find out what exactly he will be able to pull off here.
Yeah. And the first map, by the way, is going to be a ZVZ. It's going to be on Entombed Valley, so 4-player map. Could see early pools, not necessarily going to be the case. Now, Oz against Trap is one that's going to be really interesting to me because it's going to be a PvP, and Oz has really struggled in that matchup a lot recently. So I think that's going to be something that is going to be a problem for him, and I think that Trap will actually be able to take that serious. Either way, we are ready to go into Entombed Valley now.
Yep, our first map today in our Zerg versus Zerg, so here we go. Salmosa up against the Sirius. We have FXO against Prime, and let's see what the CVZ is going to yield. I timed it so perfectly, it looked like really well, and then suddenly the loading screen just freezes.
It's like, well, no, not quite.
Yeah, apparently not.
Alright, we're in.
Here we go. A little bit later than expected, but here we are in our Zerg versus Zerg on Entombed Valley. Our first map in the best of 3, into the bottom right starts the Prime player. This is Salmosa. And his opponent starting, of course, to the top right. Here we have the FXO player. Yep,
late drone. There's Salmosa, of course. Late drone for Sirius here, though. Like, really late.
Did you see that shot of Salmosa? He looks like he's 2 meters tall with that camera angle.
That was kind of a funny one they grabbed there. And of course, here is Sirius.
Stream cheating, as we can see, with the microphone in position.
Yeah, he's talking to all his lolcat buddies now, trying to figure out like what's going on the other screen.
Kidding, of course, guys. That microphone is not connected.
Yeah, it's not operational. It's really funny that he decides to put down. I don't think I've ever seen someone have their mic down in the GSL like that.
You know, I could picture Keen doing it. The commander with a microphone, delegating his troops, telling them what to do.
I can see that. He just feels like he's talking to somebody in there.
He's already one step ahead. You know, he's already playing a StarCraft 4 where we will actually be able to talk to our troops. We don't have to use a keyboard anymore. No, we can actually use voice command.
By the way, Sirius goes for an 11 pool after Overlord. Pretty unique timing, I would say. He sees his opponent's Overlord to the right, so he knows they're at quote-unquote close positions. That may affect his decision here. And his opponent going for a hatch first, he's going to be very happy to see that with his Overlord right now.
With an 11 pool, he can put a little bit of pressure on, but at the same time it's a build that keeps him a little bit flexible, so depending on what exactly he scouts, he can just fall back into a macro game. So it's not as risky as if you go for a 7 pool, for example, or even with the 10 pool you have less economy. He also has the Zerglings out a lot more late, but I guess that we will see him with a lot of links anyways. Here we have the first 6 and he gets Queen and Gas as well. This is something that you can't really pull off if you go for a 10 pool, because you just don't have the minerals. But on the other hand, the links are out a little bit faster.
And you get your Queen up right away as well with that Overlord that you make. The Extractor is not being cancelled. He's not actually using that to make extra structures. He looks like he wants to take gas very early on as well, which I think is pretty cool. The Overlord, of course, for Salmosa will see the drone making the hatchery, but more importantly sees the links heading towards his base. Not anything he can do about it. He's going to have to pull a few drones, potentially But it's not going to be something that's going to force a cancel on his hatchery. He's just going to lose a little bit of mine time, very likely.
Yeah, and if you think about it right now, the work advantage for Salmosa is actually only 4 drones. That's all that he can rely on in terms of economy. His pool is about to finish, but it still gives Sirius a little bit of time to be aggressive here. So he will have a small window of opportunity where he can take down harvesters, and he has to use it. Now the units are building for Salmosa, but he's using this nice trick where you just put all your workers in this small pocket so that none of the Zerglings can actually be attacked. Really smart. Nice defense so far.
Yeah, just going right into that pocket. Really nice control here by Salmosa. Losing some mining time though, and that's not too significant considering that he already had the better economy for about as long in game seconds.
And what we also shouldn't forget is that the queen is now out a lot faster for Sirius, of course, so he can use his injects. He will have the second queen available as soon as the hatch at the bottom is done. And at the same time, his speed is significantly faster as his opponents.
Yeah, that's very true. Something else to note about Salmosa, his opponent, is that he's one of the older pro gamers out here. He actually talked about that in his interview quite a bit. You know, he's a bit older. He's getting, you know, feeling the age a little bit, but he still wants to be a pro gamer. It's something he really loves, and it's kind of like his passion. And this is his first appearance in Code A, so I'm really excited to see how well he's going to do here. He's been that guy who's kind of on Prime's roster. You see him in the intro screen in GSL, and you're like, who is this guy? He never comes out.
Actually, when I saw him at the Code A qualifier for a second, I mistook him for a foreigner. I had just had a quick glance at him, and on first glance you could actually mistake him for someone that lives more in the Baltic area.
Yeah, he does not look, you know, as... I mean, I guess he doesn't look like your typical Korean. I would say that's true. Speed is going to be done here faster for Sirius, and he's making a lot of lings right now.
He's playing with a lot of lings. He actually has only 21 harvesters so far, so he really wants to put on the pressure. Something that Salmosa, on the other hand, already knows about.
Yeah, he's got a spine crawler going up. He's actually making a second one, and he's got his queens in position. He does not have a Baneling Nest, which a lot of people do rely on to defend this type of big aggression, so we'll see how well he can defend. He's actually pulling his drones out right now. He's very scared.
And at the same time, we don't have a Baneling Nest for either one of them. A nice block at the fetch, actually, blocking the ramp. Yeah, and now we have the link battle going on, and the link count is actually a little bit in favor of Sirius, regardless of how many Zerglings Salmosa just killed. But with all the drones available, he's still able to hold.
Yeah, and Sirius still behind a worker count after that fight. In total, he was able to kill 4. But now there are enough lings out here, so most of the lings of Salmosa are very damaged. I don't think he can actually continue the pressure anymore.
Yeah, the problem for Salmosa is, though, he doesn't know what Sirius is going to do right now. He doesn't really know if there are going to be more lings, if his opponent is just waiting for a second wave, or if he's droning up behind it. Now he decides to go into a Roach Warren, but Sirius already took a lead in the work account, and he has now the Baneling Nest on the map. So with the Baneling Nest, he will be able to defend against Zerglings on his own, but he has a huge lead in Harvesters, and this will definitely give him a little bit of an edge here.
Yeah, just a little subtlety. Salmosa pulling his queen to do the inject as his overlord spotted that Sirius's lings went home. Really smart choice to be able to do that. He sends the queen, of course, right back to the ramp, but you know, you can spot little things like that so you don't miss your injects by having those queens on the ramp. And Sirius is now in a funny situation because his Roach Warren is so late, and he's getting behind in not only workers but roaches as well. Nice surround here, though. It was able to kill several of Salmosa's lings.
Yeah, it was really well done, and the big story here is that the economy for Sirius is now just better. He's trying to send in a second wave of attack, this time with Banelings. And he will actually be able to, or he should be able to do a lot of damage as those Zerglings are just running past. The question though remains, does Sirius have a few Banelings in his main base? And it doesn't really look like he does. So now suddenly Sirius has to retreat and save his queen and the economy, and it doesn't look like he will be there in time. The queen is already dead, and there are not this many lings for Sirius.
Yeah, he's even sending his Banelings back right now, which were all, of course, spotted by that Overlord. And with Salmosa having this many roaches out, those Banelings are probably not going to be able to do anything at all. He's trying to trap the lings with the Banelings, but the thing is, they're just too slow. And Salmosa realizes that the potential for Banelings to be out there is there because he saw them earlier with his Overlord. Now he's got so many roaches out. Everything is kind of going wrong here for Sirius right now. He's starting his roach production, though.
The problem for Sirius is that Sirius is actually in a great position when it comes down to his economy. He just has to make sure that he holds long enough to capitalize on it. So if he's able to defend this for a little bit longer, then he should be able to really build a lot of units and get ahead of Salmosa, because the Prime player just doesn't have enough units, enough workers.
And he needs to get these lings up here because these roaches are not going to win the fight against Sirius's right now. He needs the lings. They're so far behind, though.
It's too late, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
With the economy that he has, and also with the production, he's just now in a really good spot. Even though he lost his queen earlier, he has the lava, the additional Banelings, and he will force Salmosa back. and now Sirius is in a great position. He is on his way to get the +1 attack upgrade. He already starts his lair tech. He has such a high harvester count compared to his opponent.
Yeah,
it's really very, very difficult for the Prime player now to catch up.
I was surprised he was able to hold there. He just barely had enough larvae to get those roaches out. He had the time he needed as well.
He had the defender's advantage, so while Salmosa had to run all across the map, Sirius could just get those units, add his 2 hatcheries, went to the ramp and make sure that he defended well. He also had the additional banings that really helped out in the last fight, but right now you can see that he's 15 harvesters ahead already. He has his lair tech started significantly faster than Salmosa.
Yeah, he even has +1 halfway done now, so...
And a third.
Yeah. I mean, everything is actually going his way now at this point after just... He took a slight risk, you could argue, but he's now really capitalizing on having that higher drone count. Salmosa is slowly but steadily droning up behind him, but he's just now starting his Evo chamber. As you said, his lair is behind. He has no third base, and that's something that Sirius can see right now with his Overlord. He's very aware that he's ahead at this point.
The key to ZVZ is knowing when exactly you can build drones and when you have to build units, and Sirius played this very, very well. He knew exactly when he could drone up. He put on pressure early game. Salmosa was a little bit in the dark, didn't know exactly how many Zerglings, how many units he needed. Sirius took this chance in order to get ahead in the work account, took a little bit of a risk later on, but it was just so well calculated that it just worked out perfectly for him. And now Salmosa finds himself in trouble. He's down 25 overall supply. His tech is significantly slower than his opponents. We already have the infestation pit being built for Sirius, and he's moving out with his roaches right now, trying to apply some pressure and at least forcing Salmosa into a defensive position.
Yep, and now he's got the better concave here on the outside of this little choke point. This is so important on Entomb Valley. And he's actually going to just send a few roaches to attack the hatchery, most likely, then spread the rest of his roaches out so that Salmosa can't get the right engagement. And he actually he doesn't even have to attack the hatchery. There's no way it's going to be accessible by drones. He just can sit here and pick off roaches, threaten the hatchery when he wants to, like he's doing right now. Just poke at it a little bit.
He's doing a really good job here, and with a good concave at the choke point, he will be able to make sure that there's no way for Salmosa to actually engage. There's the cannons already, as Salmosa definitely knows that in the long run he would lose this expansion. So at this point we have +2 already being researched for Sirius, whereas Salmosa just started his +1 attack upgrade. Burrow, pathogen glands, everything is set up to give Sirius even a bigger advantage that he already has. His third is up and running. He is in a nearly unlosable position.
Yeah, it's his game to lose right now with +2 just so far ahead. This game is in a very bad place for Salmosa right now. He's going to have to hope for some sort of lucky engagement with investors, or he's going to have to take a crazy risk like double expanding right now and hoping that Sirius just doesn't capitalize on that. But it's a big thing to hope for. Right now, Sirius is just going to max out. He's going to get his investors out. Probably going to hit with his first wave of investors because he's going to know he's ahead of his opponent in that regard. And then once he trades well there, he's just going to keep doing that until Sirius basically dies because he doesn't have an economy.
That's also a problem for Salmosa right now. If he's caught with those roaches and a couple of fungus hit him, then suddenly he won't be able to retreat. He will lose his army, and that's why he retreats now, because he realizes that this is taking too much of a risk. Sirius just has way too many units, and if Salmosa loses his army, there's no way for him to get back into the picture, because right now he's still on 2 bases. The one thing that he apparently tries to do is just get a huge army and then overwhelm his opponent, but you can already see at the overall supply that this is not going to happen. A 60 supply lead right now for Sirius. Better upgrades.
Yeah, it's about to be... +1 is about to finish, which will be on even upgrades for just a few seconds, and at that point, Sirius will pass Salmosa again with his +2. They're actually going to fight right now, potentially. He does not have that +1 yet, but he's about to in just a second.
And at the same time now, Sirius is moving up the ramp. He doesn't care anymore. He uses the fungus against his opponent's roaches, attacks into a very bad position if you consider the spine collars and of course also the concave of his opponent. But just the sheer amount of numbers is too much for Salmosa to deal with. Still an 80 supply lead for Sirius, and soon enough the +2 attack upgrade for the roaches will also kick in. There it is.
Yep, and he's just got so much production. 16 more roaches already rolling out here, and the queen falls. GG.
Game over. Pretty straightforward. Really well played by Sirius.
Yep. He's talking to his imaginary teammates right now, congratulating them on the victory. When his real teammate and coach Choya comes in. So that puts him, of course, at a 1-0 lead. And now, at this point, Salmosa's got to be thinking, how can I play a little bit differently in game number 2?
He actually played really well in the beginning, if you think about it. His opponent took a bit of a risk with a greedy opening. No, not really greedy, but with a more aggressive opening. And Salmosa defended very well, but then later on he missed the time to build drones. He really had a problem of anticipating when he could build more harvesters and was getting just a little bit ahead in army, but when he finally started to attack with a better army, it was already a bit too late because Sirius had the production, he had the better economy.
Yeah.
He could just build everything in order to hold the first attack of Salmosa off, and from this point on, Sirius was in a huge lead in the game, and he was able to carry it to victory.
Yeah, and as soon as we get into the lobby, I will let you guys know. It's actually not even hosted yet, so I'm not sure what map it's going to be next. I really felt like Salmosa almost made that attack work. I mean, Sirius barely had the roaches out in time. He had just enough to hold. And then it was like, not only do I hold because of my defender's advantage, but now I have the better harvester count. So now I'm in a huge lead. But it was pretty close. And Salmosa decided to go for that attack, which at the time I feel seemed smart because his opponent committed to banelings. He skipped banelings. He thought he had the roaches faster than his opponent significantly enough that he could make that work. Next map is going to be Daybreak, I believe. No, actually Whirlwind.
You know, you talked a little bit earlier about how Salmosa didn't really have that much exposure so far, and this is certainly true. I have like 4 or 5 recorded games for him. A couple of them were ZVZs, where he lost to Hyun in the TSL 4 Korean qualifier. He also lost a match to Sierra in the KSL. It was already a long time ago. And on the other hand, we have Sirius. He doesn't have the best results in ZVZ, but on the other hand, a lot more exposure through all the ESV Korean weeklies that he played. He had a couple of appearances in the GSTL as well. So right now, I think he's the favorite player, and he just made sure of that with a win on the first map. Now we have